Are you drowning in debt and wonder what repayment strategy is actually going to work for you? If it's student loans, if it's credit card debt, if it's personal loan debt, you need a strategy that fits life, that fits your budget, and of course, fits your goals. Now, in today's video, we're going to be looking at the ultimate guide to debt repayment plans. We're going to look at the debt snowball. We're going to look at the avalanche. We're also going to look at some hybrid methods as well as debt consolidation. Stick around to the end because I know we'll find something that is right and fits perfectly for you. Avoid the common mistake that people have with trying to get debt free. So let's go ahead and get into the video. First one we're going to break down is the snowball method. Now this is huge. This is very popular and very popular by Dave Ramsey with focusing on the psychological wins. Now this is one where what you do is list all of your debts from that smallest balance down to the largest balance. You are going to ignore all of the interest rates. Now in this specific methodology, you are going to ignore all of the interest rates. It don't matter. It does not matter at all. We are going to base it on making and really focusing on that smallest debt. We're going to make all the minimum payments. This is very important. You have to make sure with all of the debt that you have that you're making all of those minimum payments, and every extra dollar is going to go towards that smallest debt. For example, if you have one that is $500, you have one that is $5,000, you're going to make all of the minimum payments. Every single extra dollar is going to go to that $500 debt, trying to eliminate that. Once the smallest one is gone, it's going to roll into the next one, and that payment is going to go into the next one, just like a snowball rolling down a hill. Now, why does this work? Psychologically, it makes a big difference because you can see the debt elimination in action. You can eliminate that $500 card pretty quick, depending on how much you get to that. It builds momentum. That's the reason why it is called the snowball method. The snowball will continue to start getting bigger and bigger as it's going faster down the hill, because when you're eliminating those monthly payments, it's super motivating, and it's really about the quick wins, staying motivated in this method. Now, the second one we look at is my favorite, and this is the one that I personally used right here to follow the debt-free journey, to get completely debt-free short of the mortgage. And this is the debt avalanche method. Now, with this method, we don't list it based on balances. We list all of our debts based on interest rates. The highest interest rate on the top, the lowest interest rate on the bottom. Again, same philosophy. We are going to make all of the minimum payments when it comes to the debt. And every single dollar that we have in extra cash is going to go right to that very highest interest rate. So if you have a card that's at 20%, 25%, and 30%, every single dollar is going to be hitting that 30%. Now, this is huge because you are going to save more money over time because you are tackling the highest interest debt first. If you're paying off, let's say, a 12% loan versus a 30% loan, that 12% loan, of course, is not going to have the same impact because of the interest rate that you will see dollar for dollar if you are paying off this 30% loan. It is really about the impact on here. Now, this one, of course, absolutely best for people who want to save the most on interest, and that's the game changer. It's not so much the emotional wins that we see in the debt elimination that we see with the debt snowball. The debt avalanche focuses on the mathematical aspect. And the one thing to note with this, and again, this is the one that I used, is it does take a lot more discipline to actually get this methodology to work, because that highest interest rate that you have might be at, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. Trying to tackle it and trying to knock off a lot more interest on there might seem like a little bit more of a daunting task because of the amount that you have in there. But trust me, I did it myself. You can stick with it and you can get it gone. Now, thinking of a hybrid method, can't decide between the avalanche or the snowball, you're not alone. This is a methodology that I use when I do my financial counseling, using kind of a hybrid approach. Now, this is going to be really big, starting with the snowball to get a few little wins in there, then switching to the avalanche when you're more confident with the debt repayment. And this also makes a really big difference when you have a couple debts that are a little bit smaller. I was doing financial counseling with an individual. We had about 4 cards that were roughly $300 to $500 based on income. Very easy to knock them out within 1 or 2 paychecks, which is exactly what we did. So starting that snowball method, once we got to the point of eliminating 4 payments in the entirety, switched it up to the debt avalanche method, feeling more confident about that debt elimination. We now had 4 less monthly payments we had to make, but we wanted to focus those dollars on that highest interest rate, really making a big difference. Now, this methodology, the hybrid, is all about progression. The plan in here, and even with any of this debt, might not be absolutely perfect, but it has to work for you, and it has to work if you're really focused on visually seeing the elimination of debt. The snowball method is going to be great. If you're really driven like me by the numbers, the Avalanche method is going to work. When you need, of course, anything to budget, you could look at You Need a Budget tool, Every Dollar app, Rocket Money. There's a lot of different ways that you can visualize and really track your progression. But I caution you with these because a lot of people will sign up for these and use a lot of technology. And then after a week or two, they kind of forget about it. They don't go back to it. That's another reason why when I look at budgeting tools, and I know with the budget, a lot of people need to refer to it, need to go back to it, at least probably on every 2 or 3 weeks, at least once a month at a very minimum, to make sure that you're kind of still on track with where your budgeting needs to be. Now comes in the question of debt consolidation. So if you have a bunch of high interest credit cards that seem very overwhelming, this is where debt consolidation. Now, for me personally, I've worked in the financial institution for 20 years. Debt consolidation does work with a few caveats that we're going to go over. I've seen it be super, super successful, but I've also seen the flip side where it can be very detrimental. So how exactly does it work? Let's say you take out a new loan, let's say for $20,000. With that $20,000, you're going to consolidate high interest credit card debt. In that $20,000, you pay them off. You are lowering it down to one payment in one single payment. Now, when this works, paying off multiple debt, you just get to that one payment. This could be a personal loan. It could be a balance transfer, which I know a lot of people love, and also working with credit counselors like myself. But other options do include home equities, which again, we can get into in just a minute. Some of the pros on this, very similar payment or possibly even a lower payment, definitely lower interest. When we start looking at unsecured loans, you might be at 8%, you might be at 12%. When you start looking at the average on those high interest credit cards of running 24% plus, it's kind of crazy. If you can get it to 8, 10, 12%, you're literally cutting your interest rates in half on those cards. Now, the con of this, you still owe the debt and you still owe it in its entirety. Make sure anyone that you're doing the loan through, they don't have any upfront fees. The rate is still good and there is no prepayment penalty because we want to knock this out as soon as possible. Now, this is really best for people who want to simplify payments, simplify their life, have a good enough credit to get a good rate. The problems that we see in this is the mistakes, regardless of the methodology you use, making only minimum payments. This will stretch it out for years. When we start thinking about the debt avalanche, if you're going through and you're paying off the cards and you're trying to put everything to that card with the lowest balance on there, and you're not seeing it move, a lot of this is because of new debt. So what I see traditionally, and again, thinking of baby steps, thinking of Dave Ramsey, he says to save $1,000, then you go into debt repayment mode. This is the reason why, because people who do not accurately budget will go in there, go gung-ho, go crazy, putting every extra dollar towards those credit cards just to borrow it back. You're literally canceling out all of the progression you're making in the credit card debt because you're reborrowing the debt. That is the reason why you have to take a step back. You have to look at your budget, have to figure out exactly how much you can allocate towards the debt instead of just going kind of hog wild on it and throwing everything towards it and then realizing that you're not making any progression because you're actually borrowing more than you're repaying. Now, another big one of this, not having an emergency fund. I cover this. There is one unexpected expense and boom, right back into debt, right back into borrowing, starting this whole cycle around. That is absolutely a huge, huge no-no. And the same with not budgeting. Like I said earlier, when it comes to budgeting, you cannot fix and you cannot adjust the spending on the things you do not track. You can call it a spending plan, you can call it a budget, whatever you want it to be. Creating a budget, having an emergency fund is imperative. It really does set you up for financial success. Again, I've been in the financial industry for almost 20 years. I have seen people that do incredibly well, that have a budget, that have a plan, that knows where their money goes. And I've also seen the flip side of it where they have no budget, they have no idea at the end of every single month. They left with a big question mark on where exactly the money did go. So how do you break it down? Which one is really the best repayment method for you? Really breaking it down really quick. Snowball, you need fast motivation if you want to be consistent with it. And also if you're okay with paying a little bit more interest. On the Avalanche side, you want to save and maximize those dollars, and you can stay focused for the long haul regardless of what the balances are. Hybrid kind of takes the best of both worlds. Like we said earlier, some of those very little balances you could knock out pretty quick. and then go into that very, very high interest rates. And consolidation here for those who are overwhelmed with the multiple payments, and if you can qualify for the terms. Now, one thing that I have to hesitate again with the consolidation is if you do a consolidation loan, if you do in putting it all into one payment, make the payment high enough or higher than you're paying in credit card debt so you can eliminate it. What I typically see is, again, we have a scenario where an individual, consolidates $20,000 in credit card debt. They're paying roughly, let's say $700 a month in credit cards. And then they take out a $20,000 consolidation loan. They take it out for 84 months. Their payment's $280. Guys, they're going to be using 5, 6, 7 years to pay off the debt. Within that time, there are going to be a lot more things in life that are happening. At almost a decade to repay the debt, keep the term much shorter. I know the payment's going to be higher, but with a shorter term, you're going to eliminate the debt a lot faster and not drag it out with interest forever. Now, of course, when we look at all four methods, there's no wrong answer as long as you're making progression towards that debt-free journey. So honestly, debt doesn't have to be a life sentence, guys. With the right strategy, you can take control of your debt. You can absolutely get rid of it. And now I want to hear from you. Which do you use? Is it the Snowball? Is it the Avalanche? Is it hybrid? Have you ever done any consolidations? Drop them down in the comments. And of course, if you got any value out of this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for the personal financial tips and also the investing. And thank you guys for watching. And remember, every dollar you put towards debt is $1 close to having the debt-free journey completed in the entirety. And I'll catch you in the next video.